In this lesson, we dive into the second section of the manuscript, the materials and methods section. Now, before you stop this video and watch something else because you're thinking, this is boring, it's just a list of what I used and did. Wait for a moment. This section is one of the most essential parts of your paper. Why, you're asking? Because it's where you show the world, or at least your reviewers, that your research is transparent, reproducible, and solid. So let's break it down step by step. First things first. What is the purpose of this section? Think of it as a recipe. If someone wants to replicate your experiment or study, they need clear, precise instructions. Your job is to provide those instructions in a detailed but concise way. Let's go over the key components. Materials. What did you use? This includes chemicals, software, survey, instruments, or even specific hardware. Be specific. Instead of saying a thermal analysis system, say for instance the model of the system, and the samples went through 3 consecutive cycles. Methods. What did you do? Clearly outline the steps you took while avoiding unnecessary details. Ethical considerations. If your research involves humans or animals, briefly mention ethical approvals. Data analysis. How did you analyze your results? Mention software, statistical methods, or computational tools. Let's take a look at a couple of examples from published articles. The first example comes from a literature review, so let's take a look at the methodologies and materials they used. Actually, they did quite a detailed job when it comes to the material and method section, and in this article they put it into the third section. They explained it why they did it, so you can check it out if you want. First, they had research questions they answered to. Then they had a search strategy, how they're gonna find relevant articles for their literature review. And then obviously they had the selection criteria and procedures, like how, why, and how they selected the certain articles. And then a quality assessment, which is very important to do so even though the articles were published already or not. And then the data extraction part, because this is not their own data they're going to use. The second and third examples are from research studies, and I'm presenting these 2 study articles to illustrate how you can explain if you did laboratory or a fieldwork. So the first one is from a fieldwork. So they had a site description, this is very important, where the samples were collected from. Then a lake water sampling and analysis, since they used lake water. Then they have climatic data and precipitation composition, and obviously the data analysis. Now the next example is from a research study where they carried out laboratory experiments and analysis. So they used human tissue acquisition, human tissues for this study, and how they acquired the tissues. Lung tissue digestion and filtration, so basically the methodology, how they extracted data from the samples. Then chemical characterization of particles using micro-FTIR analysis, tools they used, and quality assurance and control measures to reduce and quantify background microplastic contamination. This is something that's I believe now became a standard when it comes to quality assurance, when it comes to microplastic studies. And then, of course, at the end, they also explain the data analysis, which is normally statistical analysis. Take a look at for the appendix 2 or supplementary information at the end. It should be posted right before the references. because normally these supplementary data can include more information and more detailed information about the methodologies they used or the materials, so they normally in the appendix. Now, let's talk about some common mistakes you should avoid. Too much detail. Don't explain basic lab techniques that any researcher in your field would know. Too little detail. Saying, "We conducted a survey," without describing the sample size, selection process, or questionnaire details is a big no-no. Mixing results and discussion. Keep this section purely about what you used and how you used it. Save the interpretation for later. Overall, the best way to write and practice this section is to find similar research studies in your field and choose the description style you prefer. And there you have it, how to write a clear, professional, and effective materials and methods section. I hope you find today's class content beneficial and the lesson insightful. Please feel free to post your questions and concerns in the comments. I hope to have you in our next lesson, where we will talk about falsification as the second part of the academic integrity session. I look forward to having you in the 8th Academic Writing and Publishing 101 lesson.